Hey everyone, welcome back. It's time for another deep dive. And today, we're heading over to Malaysia to check out something pretty cool happening at the University Malaysia Sabah.
Sounds intriguing.
It is. It's called UMS-ALIEN.
UM-ALIEN.
Yeah, that's UMS Active Learning and Engineering Education. Catchy, right?
I've got to admit, that's a pretty creative acronym.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And I have a feeling our listeners, especially those in the engineering education world, are going to be really interested in this one.
Yeah, I bet. So what is UMS-ALIEN all about?
Well, in a nutshell, it's all about shaking up the traditional way we teach engineering, moving away from those long lectures and really getting students hands-on with the material.
So kind of like a more practical, industry-focused approach.
Exactly. And that's where UMS-ALIEN comes in. It's basically a structured framework designed to make engineering education more active and engaging.
A framework, huh?
Yeah.
So is it like a set of guidelines for educators?
You could say that. It's got 10 levels each, building upon the last. And it's all about guiding educators to move away from being the, what do they call it, the sage on the stage.
Yeah, I've heard that one.
And instead become more of a guide on the side.
I like that guide on the side. So instead of just lecturing at students, they're more like mentors or facilitators.
Exactly. They're there to support and guide students as they learn by working in teams and tackling real-world problems.
Okay, I'm starting to get the picture here.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, what sparked this whole shift? I mean, what's wrong with the traditional way of teaching engineering?
Well, nothing inherently wrong with it, but let's face it, the world's changing, and the engineering industry is changing right along with it.
True technology is evolving at an incredible pace.
Exactly. And so the skills that engineers need to succeed are also changing.
So it's not enough to just have a deep understanding of the theoretical concepts.
Right. You also need to be able to apply those concepts in real-world settings, to be able to problem solve, to think critically, to work effectively in teams, and to adapt to new and emerging technologies.
That makes sense. Those are all pretty essential skills for any engineer these days.
Exactly. And that's precisely what UMS-ALIEN is designed to cultivate.
So it's about equipping students with the skills they need to not just survive, but thrive in this rapidly changing world.
You got it. It's about future-proofing them, so to speak.
I like that. So can you give us an example of how UMS-ALIEN works in practice? Like, how is it actually implemented in a classroom setting?
Sure. Let's say you're teaching a course on chemical engineering process simulation.
Okay, I can imagine that could be pretty complex.
It can be, but with UMS-ALIEN, it becomes much more engaging and hands-on.
How so?
Well, instead of just lecturing about the different processes and theories, students actually get to use software like Aspen HYSYS to design and simulate a virtual chemical plant.
Wait, so they're actually getting to experience what it's like to work with industry-standard software?
Yep. And they're doing it in teams, both online and in person. So they're developing those crucial collaboration and communication skills along the way.
That sounds pretty cool. It's like a blend of theory and practice all rolled into one.
Exactly. And that's what we call blended cooperative learning.
Blended cooperative learning. I like it. So it's not just about memorizing formulas anymore. It's about applying those formulas in a real-world context, using the tools that actual engineers use.
You got it. And it's proving to be very effective.
I bet. So what kind of results are they seeing?
Well, they've seen a real uptick in student engagement and a marked improvement in their technical skills.
That's great to hear, especially in areas like problem solving and software proficiency, I imagine.
Precisely.
Now, I'm curious, what about the educators? Isn't this a pretty big adjustment for them? I mean, moving away from that traditional lecturing style can't be easy.
You're right. It does require a bit of a shift in mindset.
But it sounds like it's worth it.
Definitely. And the program actually provides educators with the support and resources they need to make that transition.
Oh, that's good to know. So what kind of support are we talking about?
Well, for starters, they receive training on how to implement active learning techniques.
Okay, so they're not just thrown into the deep end.
Not at all. They also have access to a network of peers for collaboration and idea sharing. And they're encouraged to continuously develop their own digital fluency.
So it's a professional development opportunity as well.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic. It seems like they're really invested in making this work, not just for the students, but for the educators as well.
Exactly. It's about creating a culture of continuous learning and improvement for everyone involved.
Now, I'm really intrigued. So tell me, what kind of feedback are they getting from the educators who are implementing UMS-ALIEN?
It's been overwhelmingly positive.
Really? That's great to hear.
They're reporting that students are more engaged in class, they're asking deeper questions, and they're demonstrating a stronger grasp of the material.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's really exciting to see, and it makes sense when you think about it. When students are actively involved in their learning, when they're challenged to think critically and to solve problems, they're naturally going to be more engaged and more likely to retain the information.
Absolutely. It's like that old saying, tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn.
Exactly. And that's the essence of UMS-ALIEN. It's about involving students in their learning in a way that's both engaging and effective.
I'm starting to see why this is getting so much attention. It's not just about keeping up with the times. It's about preparing students for a future where those hands-on skills and that ability to adapt and problem solve are going to be more important than ever.
You hit the nail on the head. It's about giving them the tools they need to thrive in a world where the only constant is change.
And the impact is being recognized beyond Malaysia too, right?
You're right. UMS-ALIEN has actually received international awards for its innovative approach to blended learning and micro-credentialing.
Wow, that's impressive. So it's not just making waves in Malaysia, it's making waves on a global scale.
It is. And it's a testament to the power of innovation and the commitment of the educators and administrators at Universiti Malaysia Sabah.
Okay, so we've established that it's making a real difference at UMS. But what about its potential beyond that? Could this model be replicated in other universities and even in other fields? That's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
It really does. I mean, the beauty of UMS-ALIEN is its adaptability.
What?
You can tweak it, you can mold it, and you can apply it to a whole bunch of different settings.
You think so? Even outside of engineering?
Oh, absolutely. We're already seeing some engineering schools hopping on board.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the skills that UMS-ALIEN hones in on, they're not just for engineers.
Yeah, that's true.
Critical thinking, collaboration, problem solving, these are valuable assets no matter what field you're in.
You're right. It's like the workplace is changing so fast.
Yeah.
And employers are on the lookout for grads who can roll with the punches, you know? Think outside the box and work together.
Exactly. And those are the very skills that UMS-ALIEN bakes right into its DNA.
It's like they're giving their students a leg up, you know, preparing them for whatever comes their way.
Precisely. They're not just teaching them how to do a job. They're teaching them how to learn and adapt, which is way more valuable in the long run.
So I'm curious, what was the turning point? Like, what led to the shift towards active learning and this whole blended approach?
Well, it wasn't like a sudden epiphany or anything. It was more of a gradual realization. You know, educators have been sensing for a while that the old stand and deliver method wasn't cutting it anymore.
So it was a response to the changing needs of both students and the workforce.
Exactly. Students were craving more hands-on experiences, more real-world applications. And employers were saying, hey, we need grads who can hit the ground running.
And then you've got technology exploding onto the scene.
Oh, yeah. That was a game changer. With all these amazing software programs, online platforms, virtual simulations, it just opened up a whole new world of possibilities for teaching and learning.
So you're saying technology played a key role in the development of UMS-ALIEN.
A huge role. It's not just an add-on. It's woven into the fabric of the whole approach.
Can you give us some concrete examples? Like, how is technology actually integrated into the curriculum?
Sure. Think about virtual reality. Students could use VR to experience a construction site firsthand, or they could collaborate on a design project using some fancy cloud-based software.
So instead of just learning about technology, they're actually learning by using technology.
You got it. It's not a separate subject anymore. It's woven into everything they do.
It sounds like UMS-ALIEN is really preparing students for a lifetime of learning and adapting.
That's the whole point. It's about giving them the tools and the mindset to thrive in a world that's constantly evolving.
This idea of student agency really caught my attention. Can you unpack that a little bit?
It's all about empowering students to take ownership of their learning, to become active participants instead of passive recipients.
Okay, but how does that work in practice?
Well, remember those 10 levels we talked about earlier? They're designed to gradually shift the educator's role from instructor to facilitator.
Right, from sage on the stage to guide on the side.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At the beginning, the focus is on introducing simple active learning techniques, like breaking up those long lectures with group discussions, or maybe a quick problem-solving activity.
So even within a traditional lecture format, there's a push towards more interaction and collaboration.
Right. It's about dipping their toes in the water. Then as they move through the levels, they take on more and more responsibility for their learning.
So instead of just listening to lectures and taking notes, they might be working on long-term projects, conducting their own research, or even presenting their findings to their classmates.
Exactly. It becomes a much more dynamic and collaborative learning environment.
But how do you make sure students are staying on track? I mean, with all this freedom, how do you ensure they're actually learning the material?
That's where careful planning and assessment come in. You don't just throw structure out the window.
Right, it's got to be a balance.
Exactly. You still have clear learning objectives, and you use different ways to assess students' understanding.
So it's not a free-for-all. It's about finding that sweet spot between giving students the freedom to explore and making sure they're accountable for their learning.
You nailed it. It's about creating an environment where they can try new things, make mistakes, learn from them, and ultimately grow as learners.
Okay, I'm starting to see how those 10 levels come into play. They act as a roadmap, guiding both the educators and the students through the shift towards active learning.
Precisely. Each level builds upon the previous one, introducing new concepts, new tools, new challenges.
Can we take a peek at a few of those levels just to see how they translate into the classroom?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right, so let's start with level 1. What's happening there?
Level 1 is all about dipping those toes into active learning. Instead of lecturing for an hour straight, an instructor might pause every 15 minutes or so and throw out a question to the class.
And then what?
Then they might have students chat about their answers in small groups before sharing their ideas with everyone.
Okay, so even in those early stages, there's an emphasis on interaction and getting students to actively engage with the material.
Exactly. It's a gentle nudge in the right direction. Then we move up to level 3, where things get a bit more hands-on.
Oh, how so?
This is where we start seeing activities like problem-based learning and case studies.
Can you give us an example, just to paint a picture for our listeners?
Sure. Let's say you're teaching a civil engineering course. Instead of just lecturing about bridge design, you might present students with a real-world challenge. Like maybe there's a need for a new bridge in a remote community.
Okay, I'm following.
And the students have to work in teams to design a bridge that meets specific criteria.
Like what kind of criteria?
Well, maybe there are budget constraints or environmental concerns, or the needs of the community have to be factored in.
So they're not just learning about bridge design, they're actually applying those concepts to a real-world problem.
Exactly. And suddenly those concepts become much more meaningful and relevant.
It's like the difference between reading about something in a textbook and actually experiencing it firsthand.
Exactly. And as we climb higher up those levels, we start to see the integration of technology and the development of even more sophisticated skills.
So give us an example of what that might look like.
Well, at level 7, for instance, students might be asked to create a virtual model of their bridge design using special software.
And then what?
They would test its structural integrity, and then they would present their findings to a panel of experts, like a mini conference.
Wow, that's impressive. It's like they're getting a taste of what it's really like to be a professional engineer.
That's the goal, to give them a real-world experience within the safe confines of the classroom.
It sounds like a pretty intense journey, building upon each level, facing new challenges, and constantly pushing themselves to learn and grow.
It is.
Yeah.
But it's also incredibly rewarding. And it's not just the students who are benefiting. The educators are on this journey too.
What do you mean?
Well, they're constantly refining their teaching methods, experimenting with new tools and technologies, and collaborating with each other to share best practices.
So it's a win-win for everyone involved.
Absolutely. UMS-ALIEN is creating this culture of continuous learning and improvement. And that's what makes it so exciting.
It's like they flipped the script on traditional education. Instead of the instructor being the holder of all knowledge, it's more like everyone's learning and growing together.
Exactly. And that's a powerful model, one that I think has the potential to transform education as we know it.
You're saying it's not just about engineering?
Not at all. The principles behind UMS-ALIEN can be applied to any field or discipline.
So what you're saying is we need to start thinking differently about how we teach and learn.
I think so. We're living in a world that's changing faster than ever before, and our education system needs to keep pace.
I agree. We can't just keep doing things the way we've always done them. We need to be willing to experiment, to innovate, to embrace new approaches.
Absolutely. And that's what UMS-ALIEN is all about. It's about pushing the boundaries of what's possible in education and inspiring others to do the same.
This has been a truly mind-blowing deep dive. It's amazing to see how UMS-ALIEN is not just transforming engineering education, but also challenging our fundamental assumptions about what education should be.
I couldn't agree more. And I think it raises some important questions for all of us. Like, how can we apply these same principles to other fields and disciplines? What other industries could benefit from this kind of shift towards active and blended learning?
It's almost like UMS-ALIEN has given us a sneak peek into the future of learning. A future where education is dynamic, personalized, and empowers everyone to become lifelong learners.
I love that. A future where everyone has the tools and the mindset to thrive, no matter what challenges lie ahead.
And speaking of challenges, let's bring it back to our listener. What's one key takeaway they can apply to their own life, even if they're not an engineer or an educator?
You know, I think the biggest takeaway from all of this is that learning is a lifelong journey. And it's a journey that we can all take control of. It really is. You know, it's not about sitting back and passively absorbing information. It's about getting out there and engaging with the world around you.
I like it. So how can our listeners apply this idea of active learning to their own lives, even if they're not studying engineering?
Well, think about it this way. No matter what you're learning, whether it's a new language, a new skill, or just a new subject, the key is to go beyond just reading or listening.
So don't just read that cookbook. Get in the kitchen and bake that cake.
Exactly. Get your hands dirty. Experiment. Make mistakes. That's how you really learn.
I'm with you there. Experience is the best teacher. And UMS-ALIEN really emphasizes the importance of collaboration, too.
It does. And that's another takeaway that's applicable to everyone, no matter what you do. Being able to bounce ideas off others, to work together towards a common goal, those are essential skills.
Yeah, and it's not just about surrounding yourself with people who agree with you. It's about seeking out diverse perspectives, even those that challenge your own assumptions.
You're so right. That's where the real magic happens. When different ideas collide, when you're forced to step outside your comfort zone, that's when innovation flourishes.
And of course, we can't forget about the role of technology.
Oh, absolutely. Technology has revolutionized the way we learn. We have access to more information, more resources, more learning opportunities than ever before.
It's like having a world-class education right at our fingertips.
Exactly. So the takeaway here is, don't be afraid to embrace technology. Use it to your advantage. Explore online courses. Dive into interactive simulations. The possibilities are endless.
I think that's a great message to leave our listeners with. So as we wrap up this deep dive into UMS-ALIEN, what's that one big question, that thought-provoking nugget that we want our listeners to ponder?
How about this? Considering the incredible pace of technological advancement, what other fields could benefit from this kind of learning revolution?
Ooh, I like that one. How can we take those principles of active learning, collaboration, and digital fluency and apply them to other industries, to other disciplines, to other areas of life?
Right, because it's not just about education. It's about creating a world where everyone has the tools and the mindset to thrive, to adapt, to constantly learn and grow.
That's a beautiful vision. And I think UMS-ALIEN has shown us that it's possible.
I agree. It's a shining example of what can happen when we challenge the status quo and dare to imagine a different future for education.
So to all our listeners out there, no matter where you are in your learning journey, remember this: be curious, be engaged, and never stop exploring.
And who knows, maybe you'll be the one to spark the next learning revolution.
That's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of UMS-ALIEN. We hope you've enjoyed the journey.
I know I have. Thanks for having me.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.